Here now, David Kennedy, a former hacker with the NSA. David, thank you so much for being here. What could China have collected? Because the United States was following this particular balloon that was shot down off the coast of South Carolina from the moment it took off from China.
Yeah, what we know from U.S. officials is not a lot, but what they said is that, predominantly solar-based, had communications directly feeding intel to China, and that it had a number of collection antennas on it. Coming from the signals intelligence arena, if you have antennas that are there, you can basically intercept signals that are happening here back in the United States at a different range than you could from satellite communications. Satellites have good imagery, things like that, but they can't collect the signals that are typically on the ground. And so when you look at that, the military, the Pentagon, what we look at from an offensive capability, warfighting capabilities perspective, those are often, high-speed systems that, utilize heavy encryption. We don't take into account back here in the United States, a foreign nation being above us collecting our signals. So our military often back here in the States has legacy systems, weaker encryption, unencrypted communications, all of those things that China could, grab real time. That's a major threat, a potential, security risk for us here back in the States, because now they know, troop movements, potentially, people that personnel that work in those locations, tying that back to TikTok databases and what they do from a collection standpoint there. There's so many different alternatives, but at the end of the day, having signals that you couldn't get from space, being able to collect here is a major problem.
So, David, knowing what you know, if you're advising the president, would have you told him to shoot this balloon down over Montana or before it even got to Alaska? Or would you say, no, let it fly over the U.S. and shoot it down over South Carolina? What advice would have you given?
That's a little bit out of my pay grade. However, what I would say is that our airspace, especially here back in the United States, is our airspace. If there's a foreign object that is coming that is unidentified, doesn't follow the appropriate stages, typically those are handled in a way that they're either escorted out of our airspace immediately or they're shot down. The fact that this was able to go over highly sensitive facilities, bases, what we use from an ICMB perspective for intercontinental ballistic missiles, how we do responses, how we scramble jets, where we scramble them from, the communications we use. There's so much information that China was able to glean from this that it is very bad from a defensive standpoint of how we would respond to China versus how we respond to them. It really hurts our capabilities, and it's something that we really need to address.
You, like so many people, have concerns about TikTok as Chinese spyware, but some Democrats don't seem to take the threat seriously. Watch this.
Working families are facing the pinch. They're seeing high costs on gas, groceries.
Good evening. No question about it.
When you teach a wolf to meditate.
Hello, I'm Congressman Adam Schiff with some troubling news.
Hey everyone, just wanted to give you guys a quick update.
I want to live in a state where those in power are trying to bring us together.
And then Senator Marco Rubio had this to say.
The issue is the data. Number one, it's the data. They are collecting data on, and so are other social media companies. When it comes to China, if they tell ByteDance, which owns TikTok, I want the data of those 60 million, 70 million Americans and everything you have on them, they have to turn it over, or ByteDance will cease to exist, or someone else will be taken over it. The other is the ability to further narratives. They can use TikTok to drive video and promote messages that in a time of conflict convince Americans that America shouldn't defend Taiwan, that America's wrong about Taiwan, and on the other hand, suppress messages that say the contrary.
David, the TikTok has been banned on government devices at the federal level, something that was signed by Joe Biden. And you still have a lot of members of his own party who won't get off of it for whatever reason, and well, because they need the young voters. What is the danger of it?
Yeah, I agree with all the points that were spoken around the collection aspects. We live in a society where China is the largest surveillance state that we've ever seen in the history of civilization around its own people, as well as what it collects around the world. They're the largest, intellectual property theft adversaries that we face in the world. They continue to be year after year stealing trillions of dollars of intellectual property from the United States through illegal cybercrime, and they continue to do so. And the information they obtain and how they look at the world is through information. So, this is one source of thousands other they have, but it's one of their main sources of information where they can collect it on U.S. personnel, people that are close to military installations, start to build dossiers or profiles for espionage purposes, as well as what type of information you want to target. And as we know, living in this digital age, our kids are playing Fortnite and these different things. They're on social media, they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook. What we communicate to our kids and who is actually presenting that information is extremely important, because that's their view of the world, because they're living through that screen. They're not living through reality. And so it does pose a major threat for us. And, I'm personally against, using TikTok in any form or capacity because of those major threats that we have, specifically with China being our largest adversary in the world. And it's also a major security issue as well. So, my recommendation would be get off of TikTok immediately as fast as you can, unless you want the Chinese government collecting as much information on you as possible.
David Kennedy, let's ban TikTok. Let's do it. Thanks for joining us on The Bottom Line. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.